It starts with an idea. A tip. A reminder. It takes us on a daily journey from north to south and across the region. We tell the stories of our community, our world at home. Because what happens locally, regionally, nationally, and globally affects us all. Your stories are our stories. Your community is our community. Our day starts and ends with you, and we are proud to be your news leader.
On Saipan, Tinian, and Rhoda, our regional coverage of the Northern Marianas, reporting what you need to know, asking the hard questions, and sharing your voice, your view on the issues that matter in good times and in challenging ones and in changing times. KUAM CNMI, keeping our community at the center because we are better together. Half a day to our viewers on Guam, the CNMI, across the region, wherever you are joining us. My name is Thomas Manglona, and we are here reporting live from Wichita, Kansas, at the Sedgwick County Zoo. We have a special program for you. It is just past the hour here, 6 p.m. Thursday. We know you on Guam and the NMI and in the Pacific are just waking up, and we're so grateful that you're able to join us for this special presentation on Facebook Live for the Sihek Recovery Project. Of course, this story begins locally on Guam, and we will bring you our first report before we get to see the feeding here at the Sedgwick County Zoo in Wichita, Kansas. The Guam Micronesian kingfisher, or Sihek, is considered extinct in the wild. A massive effort involving various government and nonprofit agencies wants to change that.
So the Sihek project is like ours, a decades-long work of captive rearing the Sihek, and we're at a point now where on top of the captive rearing part, there is now a potential release component.
That turning point could happen next year with the release of the Sihek on Palmyra Atoll, managed by the Nature Conservancy and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, with birds raised at the Sedgwick County Zoo in Wichita, Kansas. KUAM will be reporting from Kansas this week, but the story starts in Guam. Anthony Tornado is a local biologist with the Department of Agriculture.
We're not just breeding birds so they can stay in zoos. We're breeding birds so that way they can go out into the wild where they belong. Guam and the Marianas have two unique Sihek species. The CNMI has their own beautiful Sihek. It's a white and cerulean wing colored bird. And here on Guam, we have our cinnamon colored Sihek with the cerulean wings.
The Sihek on Guam has been extinct in the wild since the late 1980s, amid threats like the brown tree snake and habitat loss. According to the Smithsonian, there are less than 145 birds in human care at 24 facilities and one breeding facility on Guam.
What we are doing now is trying to gear up at least 6 birds to release on Palmyra. And of course, being in captivity so long, sometimes these birds over time may lose their ability to rear their young.
The goal is to raise a wild population that can sustain itself.
When we lose these natural resources, we lose the cultural heritage and identity that is associated with these animals. And to my understanding, there is a legend here on Guam about a Sihek, and that the female Sihek was a loud woman in the village, and a Tautamotna changed her into Sihek, and that legend kind of stuck over time.
It's a legend that many are striving to help breathe new life into so that the Sihek can be heard again. Thomas Manglona, KUAM News, Wichita, Kansas. All right, welcome back. We're now live again at the Sedgwick County Zoo at the Quarantine Translocation Unit in Wichita, Kansas, and we're grateful to be joined by two people who are heavily invested in this project. And we'll go ahead and start off with introductions.
Hi everyone, my name is Erica Royer. I'm an aviculturist for the Smithsonian's National Zoo Conservation Biology Institute. We've been here in Wichita in the quarantine unit since May 21st, raising or incubating eggs and rearing chicks. And I've worked with Sihek for about 9 years now at SCBI. And I also have with me here Claire.
Hi everyone, my name's Claire Sweeney. I've come over here from the UK. I normally am an aviculturist at Whipsnade Zoo, which is part of the Zoological Society of London, a conservation charity based in the UK. And I've come over here to help Erica out here in the Sihek quarantine trailer with the eggs and with rearing the chicks. I've been here for about 3 weeks. I've got another week left, so it's been really exciting working here with Erica and with the Sihek.
All right, and so Erica, can you just explain to folks where we're at right now? Can you situate this unit?
Yeah, we're here at the Sedgwick County Zoo in Wichita, Kansas. We're behind the scenes in a trailer that's been retrofitted to be a quarantine unit. And so there's very few people allowed in the unit, so you guys are getting to see an exclusive sneak peek of our quarantine space for the Sihek. Yeah, so that's where we are currently.
And this process that they see, you do this multiple times a day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.,
Yeah.
basically since this project started months ago, right?
Yes, that's correct. So we feed the chicks every day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. At first they're being fed every 2 hours, and then they gradually decrease until we can wean them after fledging. But all of the chicks are at a little bit of a different stage as far as their age. So we've got feedings at all different times during the day, really. So we're here all the time.
All right, well, I know it's just past the hour and we don't want to keep them
Yes,
waiting.
the chicks
so
are hungry.
all right, so how does this begin? Can you just walk us through the process?
We're gonna go get the first chick, which we always feed the youngest chick first. Claire's gonna do the feeding, so if you wanna come with me, we'll go get the first one. We've already prepped the food, it's ready to go, so let's go grab the first one. So these are special brooders to house the chicks. They're kept at very specific temperatures depending on their age. So this is our youngest chick in here. He's being kept at about 30 to 31 degrees Celsius. So we'll go ahead and take him out. We keep them in these little plastic nest cups lined with paper towel and some rubber matting for traction. And we'll change these out to every feeding, but we want to make sure that we're looking closely at their fecals that they produce. That tells us a lot about their health. So once Claire's done, she'll change out the nest cup here. So she'll go ahead and feed him first. As you can see, he's very hungry. So they have that's another good indicator of health, that he has a really good feed response. So he's kind of responding to any sort of touch around his face. And I keep saying he, but we don't know the sex of this chick yet. So Claire is going to feed him a mix of chopped pinky mouse, which is just a baby mouse, whole crickets, and pieces of chopped lizard, or anole, and then also small mealworms. So it's soaking in an unflavored Pedialyte just to give them some extra hydration. And you see Claire's touching his face first.
Well, I'm trying.
If he would stop biting the paper towel. She's touching his face first with a Q-tip, and that's to stimulate him to beg, because we try not to touch their face with the food first, because they're a little crazy and messy and they'll get it in their eyes or their nose. So we try to keep them really clean while we feed. It doesn't always work. We just clean them up afterwards if they get a little messy. And then the whistle that she's using, that we've talked about, if you've seen any of our previous special newscasts on KUAM News, is to help us train the birds that whistle means food. And so that will allow us, after the translocation, to recall the birds in, or at least that's the hope, so that the birds know we're trying to recall them in, that they'll get food, and this could allow us to get weights on them and do health checks. So every time she goes to put a piece of food in his mouth, she'll blow the whistle, stimulate him to beg with the Q-tip and then insert the food. And so this chick is getting at least 2.37 grams per feeding, and he's being fed 5 times a day. So they get quite a bit of food when they're this age. As they're growing and developing, you can see he doesn't really have any feathers. He's starting to grow some feathers in. He's got some little spiky things going on there. Those are called pin feathers, and those are just the beginnings of feather development. So he's got a little bit of a ways to go yet.
Where are you going?
He's got his own plans. So this chick is actually only 10 days old, so they grow pretty quickly, but he's doing quite well. As you can see, he's very active in the nest cup and has a really great feed response. Now this chick is originally from, it was transferred to us as an egg from the Brookfield Zoo. So we have a lot of zoos, different zoos working to save this species, and several different zoos sent us eggs for this project. There are a lot of zoos, 24 facilities, including the breeding center in Guam, that have Guam Sihek and are working together to save this species.
And what is Claire taking note of right now, and why is it important to take these numbers down?
The notes, yeah, so every feeding we record the temperature and the humidity in their brooder. We want to make sure that it's stable throughout the day. In the morning, we usually make changes to decrease it to get them closer to room temperature, so we want to make sure those changes were successful. But then she's also recording the total amount that the bird received each feeding. We keep track of that in a spreadsheet, and it adds it up for us at the end of the day so that we know exactly how much food the chick received. We keep careful track of their weights and then how much food they received. Now she's just kind of cleaning up his mouth in case he made any bit of mess. Make sure he's nice and clean before he goes back in his brooder to rest. So this is actually the last feeding of the day for this chick, so we're putting him to bed at this point.
Ready to go?
Yes, so he is ready to go back. So he's got a nice clean nest cup. I don't know if you can hear him vocalizing. Well, now you probably can't in here, but he's making quiet little vocalizations. But the next one is very noisy. You'll definitely hear that one. We're just doing a little bit of prep for the next one's food. Still feisty. The sponge that you see in there in the cup helps us keep the humidity at the right level. So that just helps with the chick's hydration. And as you can see, this one hatched, it was 10 days, this one hatched on the 3rd of July. And if Claire's ready for the next chick, I think, or a few minutes? Okay, yeah, some of the food should be warming up. So this chick hatched on the 27th of June. And you'll notice he's a bit bigger. He or she is a bit bigger, a bit messier, and a bit louder.
And so I know it's a bit noisy in here right now, so
It
do
is
you
a
want to
bit
just
noisy.
explain to our viewers what that
Yeah, so
noise is?
other than the chick screaming, the vocalizations that you're hearing are, this one is a Guam Sihek from SCBI, so we have some recordings of their vocalizations. But the other tracks are actually vocalizations of seabirds that are found on Palmyra Atoll, which is where we'll release birds next year. We want the birds to get used to those sounds because they're going to be foreign to them otherwise. So we want that to just be commonplace so they're comfortable in their new environment once they're released. There are quite a lot of cool birds on Palmyra. We are very starving.
He is the loudest chicken.
Yes, he's by far the loudest.
And I know in the past few days that we've been here, you were also explaining the frequency at which you feed them. Today, it's a different schedule, so can you just explain kind of what goes into
Sure.
the planning?
Yeah, as the chicks age, we have a specific protocol that tells us, okay, for this many days they get fed every 2 hours. And then after that, they get fed every 3 hours and then every 4 hours, and it goes down from there until they're only fed twice a day as juveniles. That's the point at which they're eating independently, and we no longer have to worry about taking them out like this and hand feeding them food. So we want to make sure we're weaning them down slowly and giving them the best chance of producing healthy chicks. So this chick is 16 days old. This one is from the Cincinnati Zoo. So the egg was sent to us from Cincinnati and hatched here in the quarantine unit.
We don't need to use the Q-tip quite so much
Yeah.
with this one.
He doesn't quite, this one doesn't quite need the Q-tip. He's very eager. He's, as you might notice, his eyes are a little bit more open, and so he's got a little bit better sight than the last one. He's older, more developed, so he can see a lot better when Claire's coming towards him with the food, and he's ready to eat. So he'll, as you'll notice, get a lot more food than the last chick. He's getting at least 5.24 grams per feeding.
And he's never full.
And he's never full, yes. He could always eat more. Now, if you look at his feathers coming in, or these little spiky things, they're a bit longer than what we saw on the last chick. And as they grow out, the feathers are covered in a sheath, and they'll start to come apart, and you'll start to see what we know as bird feathers. So that'll take quite a long time. It takes a lot of energy. So that's why these guys are eating so much food compared to our adults. So to give you an idea, in just two feedings for this chick, that's what we feed the adults in one day. So this chick's getting a lot of food because he needs a lot of energy to develop all these feathers that he's growing in.
I meant to tell you earlier, his chest pins are just starting to emerge.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we can add that to his milestone chart. We keep track of as new feathers are coming in, as their eyes open, all of their important milestones, developmental milestones, and that allows us to sort of compare between the chicks to make sure that they're on track. Still acting starving.
Yeah, so now he's had his rationed amount, but it's the last feed of the day, and we want him to have a nice weight gain tomorrow, so I'll give him maybe a couple more pieces.
Yeah. And we didn't talk about his food items, but he's getting very similar food items, but if you notice, they're a bit bigger than the last chick. So this is chopped up mice, small mealworms, whole crickets, and bigger pieces of a knoll, which is a type of lizard.
Oh.
And I threw it out of the cup. This other dish that we didn't talk about here is a plate of calcium carbonate. So Claire's dipping that food in the calcium carbonate to make sure he's getting enough calcium for all of the growth that he's doing. We do also, is he done? We do also take daily photos, and sorry to reach across you, Claire, next to a quarter for all the chicks to look at size comparison to make sure they're on track again for proper development and growth.
You must be full now.
I think that's good. So he also gets a new nest cup for the night. His is a little bit different in appearance because he's quite a bit messier since he's bigger.
Time to clean your beak.
He's got a little bit of calcium.
He doesn't like this bit, do you? You like being messy. I guess he's just like most kids, doesn't like bath before bed.
Yeah. So hopefully you guys can hear all his fun vocalizations. He's like a little dinosaur.
No. Shields up.
Alright, get it back to the brooder. And we do have 2 other chicks in the trailer in quarantine, but they're on a different feed schedule. So we'll just be feeding these 2 chicks for the Facebook tonight.
All right, and so We have much more coming up ahead, but we did want to share our the second part of our series, which explains and goes deeper into the exact use of this location, which is on the Sedgwick County Zoo in Wichita, Kansas. So take a listen, and we'll be back with more after this. It's 6 a.m. at the Sedgwick County Zoo. Erica Royer with the Smithsonian Conservation Biology Institute and Claire McSweeney from the Zoological Society of London prepare to start a 12-hour period of feedings for 4 Guam Sihek chicks.
We're going to be weighing the chicks, checking all the temperatures of their incubators, and then calculating how much food they're going to get for the day, and at each feeding, if they're due for any vitamins today or diet changes.
It's a delicate process they've mastered since the Sihek chicks first hatched in June after their eggs were transported from facilities across the nation. This zoo is one of many involved in the program. The quarantine unit housed within this container holds renewed hope for the reintroduction of the Guam Sihek into the wild. There are just over 100 birds in captivity across the nation. I'm here at the Sedgwick County Zoo quarantine unit in Wichita, Kansas, where 4 Sihek chicks are being raised as part of a long-term effort to reintroduce them back into the wild. The youngest of them just 8 days old and the oldest 42 days old. One by one, each Sihek chick is carefully examined and fed.
So when they first hatch, they're on a really small baby mouse that we chop up even smaller for them into really tiny pieces. And then as they get older, their diet changes, so they get some slightly older mice. They also start to be introduced to an owl, which is helping to replicate the variety that they would get in their diet post-release.
They're also training the Sihek to associate a whistle with food during the rearing process.
And so hopefully after they're released, we can continue to supplementary feed the chicks, because someone can blow the whistle, have food available, and then the birds will know to come towards that sound and hopefully get some food if they're not doing so well at catching it for themselves.
The Sihek raised this year will be integrated into a captive breeding program. The project, involving various government and nonprofit agencies, ended up with fewer fledglings than the minimum required for translocation this year. However, they're now more prepared to raise another group of Sihek for release on Palmyra Atoll next year. Thomas Manglona, KUAM News, Wichita, Kansas. All right, welcome back. We are reporting live from the Sedgwick County Zoo in Wichita, Kansas. And Erica, where are we right now?
So this is the egg and chick room. You already saw our food prep and chick feeding room. So this is where we would be incubating eggs. We don't have eggs currently, but these are our egg incubators. And then this is also where we house our chicks and their specialized brooders. These are usually for our smaller, more delicate chicks. And then they graduate into this type of brooder, which is a little bit larger. There's no one in here right now, but we put them into this sort of fake nest cavity. And this is heated as well. It just allows us to monitor them through the plexiglass. So at the end of the night, which is where we are now, after 6 at this point, we would go through and check all of our temperatures and humidity. So I'm just going to do that really quick while we're in here. And we want to make sure that all of the temperatures are where they're supposed to be before we leave, because we won't be back until 6 a.m. And all of our chicks are sleepy from being stuffed at dinner. Now we do have one older chick who's 44 days old today. She's back here. She might be a little bit skittish, so I'm going to stand on this side if she's right in the corner there. Yep. So we don't know the sex of this chick for sure, but we think it's probably a female based on the coloring of her chest. She still has juvenile feathers, but we hope to find out soon whether it's male or female. The way we do that for these guys is we actually submit their eggshells for testing, because that has some blood left over from when they were incubating and some membranes that will tell the lab technicians whether it's a male or female that came out of that egg. So we hope by next week we'll have the sexes on all of these chicks.
And I also wanted to ask about where the eggs come from and just that entire process, because there are about 24 stateside institutions that house Guam Sihek, right?
Yes. Yeah, we have multiple partners for this project, and we got eggs from, I believe, about 7 different facilities. So they transport via a portable incubator, which is pretty cool. If they're too far away to drive, then we'll transport them on commercial airlines. We'll buy them a whole seat all to themselves if we can. And a keeper or experienced aviculturist will fly with them. And they maintain the temperature throughout the whole time. They check on them throughout the flight. It's a very complicated and exciting process. Once they arrive to us here, then we bring them to the quarantine unit and open up those incubators inside, check the eggs by what's called candling them. So we take a bright flashlight, darken the room, and shine the light into the egg. That allows us to see sort of the embryo inside. We're looking for movement and things of that nature. And we also weigh the eggs because we want them to lose a certain amount of weight throughout incubation. But once we've checked over the eggs, they look okay, they've arrived safely, they go in these special incubators where they'll be properly rotated every couple of hours and kept at the exact temperature and humidity that they need to be at.
And we'll touch on this in the next 2 stories, but ultimately, after they leave this unit, they're going to head to Palmyra, right,
Yes.
next year.
Yes, they will be heading to Palmyra for next year.
And you actually have been to Palmyra.
Yes, last year myself and several others went to do a site assessment of Palmyra Atoll. We want to make sure that Palmyra is a good place for the Sihek to be released, so we looked at prey availability, we looked at the habitat, whether we thought that it was a place that Sihek would prefer, and also nesting opportunities. So this does seem like the perfect place for Sihek. There are no predators. It's free of different diseases that could put Sihek in danger. So this is the best experimental place to put Sihek while we figure out how to properly release them, and this will allow us to at some point release them on Guam once we have all of the protocols in place and learn more about this process.
All right, thank you so much, Erica. And I know one major question that I got was, why Kansas? So we got a chance to sit down with the CEO and president of the Sedgwick County Zoo, and here is that story where he explains what is happening here in the state. The Sedgwick County Zoo and its president, Scott Newland, are no strangers to the Marianas.
Sedgwick County Zoo has been involved with both Guam rails and Guam kingfishers for over 20 years, and that is kind of how I became familiar with both of these programs and how I kind of got started as the management team for both of these species.
Newland, whose aunt served in the Navy on Guam, visited the region for over a decade and works closely with local agencies and longtime Marianas-based wildlife biologist Suzanne Medina. He served as the Species Survival Plan Coordinator for both the Guam Coco and Sihek, leading plans to maintain the population.
We are trying to produce birds of both species to support the releases on Rhoda for Coco, and then our efforts for Sihek in the future.
His work in the Marianas is part of the reason Kansas is now at the center of Guam Sihek recovery. The zoo is a founding member of the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. What's happening in Kansas is critical to meet metrics set by U.S. Fish and Wildlife for translocation.
We have to show that our techniques are valid, that our survivability is going to be good. Obviously, we don't want to spend a lot of time and resources to try to release Sihek back and have it not be successful.
That release is now set for next year at Palmyra Atoll, which is managed by the Nature Conservancy and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. It's one step closer to bringing the birds to Guam, which is difficult to do right now.
At the moment, we seem to have no easy route to get birds to Guam. Historically, Continental was our go-to, and then obviously when United and Continental merged, United was a great partner and has been a great partner. But right now there is an embargo for us to be able to get either Coco or Sihek. Even if we were ready to bring Sihek back to Guam, I don't have a reliable way to get those birds there on a normal basis.
Even getting the Sihek to Palmyra is a massive logistical challenge they've been preparing for. But first the eggs have to be flown or driven to Kansas for the quarantine process from some of the 24 stateside facilities with Guam Sihek.
What we found to be true is, like many things here in the zoo, the animals don't read the manual that we create. Even though we said we're going to use these specific pairs and we should be able to get 20 to 24 eggs out of these pairs, they didn't listen to any of that. We have learned so much this year in this process that it's actually going to make us definitely more successful in 24 when we're ready to try another cohort of birds moving out to Palmyra.
Thomas Manglona, KUAM News, Wichita, Kansas. All right, so you've been watching our series, Flight of the Sihek, reporting live from Wichita, Kansas, at the Sedgwick County Zoo, where the Sihek recovery program is at the center of. And we'll have more reports coming up in the coming weeks and over the next few years, actually, on this project. We've been tracking it from the start, and we're grateful for our partners at ZSL who made it possible. And so I wanted to come back to you, Erica, on what the next steps are from here.
Yeah, so this year really allowed us to update and hone in on our protocols of how we're going to get this done as far as bringing in eggs, hatching chicks, and transferring them to Palmyra. So for next year, we'll be doing this process again, but much better and bigger. So we'll have a ton of chicks next year that we'll then be transferring to Palmyra. We'll be releasing 9 chicks, and then someone will be on Palmyra for the time following that and monitoring those chicks and monitoring their health and progress.
And Claire, what does it mean for you to be a part of this history in the making?
Yeah, I mean, it really is history in the making, and it's been an amazing opportunity for me to come over here and help out with the project. I think I could probably speak for both of us when I say this type of work is really where our passions lie, and having an impact on the front line of conservation it's really important to me, and it's sort of why I got into this work. So having the opportunity is just amazing.
And Erica, for you, any closing thoughts before we say adios to our viewers?
Echoing everything that Claire said, but we're just really excited to be part of this process because we know that eventually this will lead to bringing Sihek home to Guam.
All right, thank you so much. Again, you've been watching our live stream from Wichita, Kansas at the Sedgwick County Zoo, where the Guam Sihek recovery program is taking place, and we'll have much more coming up on KUAM Primetime tonight and in the coming years, we hope, as we track their reintroduction to the wild. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you, Claire and Erica, for your time. Appreciate it.